This podcast was produced by Sean Weston Media.
I think I'm going through the change.
Oh yeah? Which one?
Well, colour of hair, taste in music, that changed quite some time ago, actually. Perhaps I need to hire a change manager to help me with these things. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe a shrink?
Maybe a shrink. You are, in my opinion, somewhat of an extremely experienced specialist in change management. So I'm going to ask you a few questions.
God, that's set me up, hasn't it?
Let's set you up. The pressure is on. Take a sip of coffee, should you require that support. And here goes my first question. What's the first thing anyone needs to do when a change program is about to be launched at a business? What's the very first thing you need to do? Sit down and meditate.
Yeah, cry in the corner. It's got to be understanding the impact the change is going to have on people. I think we go round and round and round, and organisations constantly say that people are their most important asset or their most important thing. So if we do this change, who does it impact and how will it impact them? That's a good role that a communications specialist can bring.
That was actually a lovely first example, because it would be too easy there for you to answer me with a practical thing to do, when actually it was a philosophical. It was a step back and see the bigger picture, and ask why we're doing this before we actually proceed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. See, that's why you're good at this.
Allegedly. Think about it. Change is tough for everyone, and that's why we need to think about how we communicate with them. So it could be something horrendous, like your favourite chocolate bar has been discontinued. That's a change.
Did you see what they did to Milky Bar?
I've heard.
It tastes rubbish now. There's a change I wasn't ready for.
Exactly. And then it could be something like a organisation restructure at work, or you hear a rumour that 2,000 jobs are being cut this week. Obviously at two massive ends of the spectrum, but they're both going to impact you. And you'll find it tough no matter what the change is going to be, because you're not prepared for it. Something just happens. There are lots of important things, I guess, that you need to do to help people to adapt to that change. And I guess that's where professional communicators come in.
Yeah, because we often think the professional communicator has to rely on senior management as well to get on board with that change.
Yes.
I've got an interesting statistic for you here. This is from a study, and it found that 68% of senior managers understood why organisational change is happening. But then the number falls from there. Only 53% of middle managers really get the message of why change is happening, and only 40% of frontline supervisors understand the change. Now, they are crucial to helping the change happen. But if middle management are not getting why you need to change, that's going to make it so hard from the get-go, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
How do you counter that?
I guess a lot of it is to do with being really open very early and bringing more people in as you can, I think.
Like recruiting an army of believers. I believe in this change.
These changes may impact those middle managers, and often middle managers can be casualties of big restructures and changes. So it really comes down to what your tone is as an organisation. Are you open and transparent about what you're doing? Do you hide everything because you fear that they're not going to be able to do their jobs and that's going to hit your bottom line, and that's more important? Really depends how you are, what your values are. We've talked about a lot, but what your values are as an organisation and how you want to treat people. I think one of the good things to do at the start of a change program, you ask one of those questions, is actually set out how you're going to interact with people. Are you going to be open and honest? Are you going to tell people as soon as possible? Are you going to be timely in how you do things? What language do you use? You talked a little bit about people understanding things. People tend to get into these very business speaky, acronym full, certainly not plain English or plain any other language, ways of communicating. We make everything feel very strategic and important. And actually, you need to go back to how it's going to impact people and what they're going to care about. And fundamentally, we care about our own job, and we care about the future. Hopefully, we care about the future of the organisation as well.
I think that's an important point there, about not just about the transparency, because you absolutely need transparency more than secrecy. But keeping everything really clear, and that's something I've been involved in as the writer and the in-house messages that go out to people. Is I've received very complex, very authoritative, Big Brother, here's what we're doing, and I've actually rewritten it to sound more like you're with us on this.
So you're helping them to sell that vision of the future.
Yes, but that you're involved in it. This isn't coming from the top down.
And we want you to be part of it.
Yeah.
That's such a big deal, because even if you're restructuring, there's going to be a huge amount of people that are going to stay, and you want them to be part of the future. But you don't want them to be, pissed off through this process, to feel like they didn't know what was happening, to feel they weren't valued. Because when it comes to the end of it, they may then look to leave, and you're going to lose the people you didn't want to lose as well. So,
and the practical side of that, I know it's hard to hear this, but those pissed off people can really put a spanner in the works of the change program.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, in my experience, you don't change to go backwards. You change to go forwards.
Absolutely.
It's always a good thing, even if there are casualties in terms of redundancies and that sort of thing. It's always a good thing. There is something better that we want to make ourselves.
So one of the things you need to do there then is listen to those people.
To the people that may be redundant.
Or listen to everyone, but maybe more those people who you don't want to be made redundant. So listening to everybody.
Yeah.
Because they're going to give you feedback, but take it on and change what you're doing.
Yes.
Actually listen to what people are saying. If everyone's being negative following it, you've not done your job properly. So actually be humble and say, actually, we need to change this. Let's change up what we're doing. Let's take a different approach. Because, again, that's probably your values, is listening to people and valuing people. So
Yeah.
realise that a change is not just a senior leadership thing that they're doing to people. It's actually lots of people are interacting with it, and you've got lots of experts and lots of experience in your company.
Is it important to have someone called a change ambassador?
You could have something like that. You could have change champions or ambassadors or things.
And they're not necessarily leaders, are they? Or managers?
No, I think they're people who are made a lot lower down the food chain, I guess, who you help to speak to people at a local level. So if you're working across hundreds of countries around the world, it's impossible that a couple of people sat in London or in New York could talk to all those people and engage those people. I know we have tools that we can send to all or do webinars to everybody, but it's not quite the same as it. Through change, you look to people that you trust.
Yeah.
And that's going to be someone that you know better, right?
And I like that engagement with people, because we often just use email.
Yeah, it's push communications, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got a statistic here that it says important and relevant email makes only 38% of your employees' inboxes.
Yeah.
People don't read them, so... And don't you hate it? Don't you just hate it when someone comes up to you and they get all shirty because they're like, I didn't hear that message, even though you've actually hounded them with emails and Slack messages and newsletters and podcasts, and they still said they didn't get it. To me, that person was just resistant to change. They knew it was happening, but they just don't want it to happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're saying, be nice to that person.
Yeah.
Really get to understand where they're coming
It's
from.
not glamorous, is it? A change program. I think you see lots of these roles advertised. Doing change comms is not like launching a new product or doing a great campaign for something. It's disruption. It's tough. It's usually got some form of negative connotation behind it. So think it through. Think about what the negatives will be for people. Think about how you might mitigate them. So I think it was something that came up in a lot of our early podcasts was about planning. But I think change is a lot about planning. It's thinking through what are the outcomes for people. But a comms person really needs to think about what are the outcomes for those people and what do we need them to be, this think, feel, do thing. As a result of these communications, what do we want the outcome to be for those people? And that's what we could track. And that's how we could see if we're doing our job properly.
Well, I'm thinking of a Baileys right now.
Yeah, what are you feeling?
An ice cube. I think I'm going to do it.